So this is the video lecture series of embedded systems. We are going to discuss about the parallel bus standards in this video. We'll be discussing about the PCI bus and the PCI X bus in this video. So these are actually parallel bus standards or parallel buses. Okay. So let us discuss about the PCI and PCI X bus. So PCI stands for Peripheral Component Interconnect. So this is actually a parallel bus standard. Parallel communication means all the bits will be transferred at the same time. Generally, if you see the parallel communication systems, they are short distance communication, but the speed will be very high because all the data, that is all the entire 32-bit or the 64-bit will be transferred during the single cycle. Okay, so the transfer speed or the communication speed will be very high, but the length of communication systems or length of separation between the systems should be less. So that is one important feature of a parallel bus. So anyway, PCI is a peripheral component interconnect. That is the expansion of PCI. And this is a parallel bus which enables the host system to communicate simultaneously the 32 or the 64-bit with the other devices. For example, a network interface card or a graphic card. So in order to transfer the data to the NIC or graphic card, all the data, that is all the 32-bit will be transferred during a single transfer. Okay. So consider that there is distributed IO systems all networked together. Then the communication between these distributed systems can be done with the help of a parallel bus. And also another important feature is that we have already discussed, it is high speed. PCI connect at high speed to other subsystems having a range of IO devices at very short distances less than 25 centimeters. So the distance between the devices should be very less for enabling the parallel communication. Okay, so this is one important feature of a parallel bus. Next, let us see the diagram of parallel bus and parallel, that is PCI bus and PCI bus bridge. So this is the PCI bus. You can see that various devices or peripherals are actually connected to this PCI bus, and there is a PCI bridge. This is the PCI bus bridge, and this enables the communication of the PCI bus with the other buses. So this is the PCI bus. In order to communicate, that is in order to connect this PCI bus with the memory bus, there is a bridge. Also, there are other buses which are address bus, data bus, control bus. So in order to have communication between these buses and the PCI bus, you can use a bridge. Okay, and also for other, in order to connect with other systems, we can use a bridge to connect the PCI. Okay, that is in order to connect the PCI with the other systems, we can use a bridge. Okay, so this is a simple diagram of PCI bridge and bus connection. Next, let us see the features of PCI bus. So the PCI bus, generally the data bus width is 32-bit, but it is extendable up to 64 bits. And the PCI protocol specifies the way of interaction between different components of a computer. Okay, just like any other buses. Here also there is an interaction or communication between the various components which is connected to this bus. Now, a specific version of PCI is PCI 2.1. It can be operated in both synchronous or asynchronous way. That is synchronous or asynchronous mode. And the throughput is up to 132/528 megabits per second. And it operates at the voltage levels 3.3 to 5 volt. Okay. Now, talking about the PCI driver, it can access the hardware automatically as well as by the programmer assigned address. Automatically, when you are connecting a hardware to the PCI driver, it will detect it, or if the programmer is assigning some address, it will use that address. Okay, so the automatically detects the interfacing systems and assigns new address. So when you are connecting a device or a peripheral or a hardware to a PCI bus, then the PCI driver means the bus driver. So this bus driver or the PCI driver will automatically identify the device, there is a hardware, and assign a new address to it. Thus simplified addition and deletion. Okay, attachment and detachment of the hardwares to this PCI bus is actually very simple. You can see that there is a PCI bus here and various devices are connected to this bus, right? So when the new hardwares or new IO devices or new components are connected to the PCI bus, there is a bus driver for this PCI bus. There is this driving software, or the bus driver will identify the devices automatically and will assign a new address to it. So attaching and detaching of these devices, for example, a LAN interface, in order to attach and detach this device is very easy. Okay. Next, another important features is the FIFO nature of PCI. So each device may use a FIFO controller with a FIFO buffer for maximum throughput. First in, first out buffer type of communication is happening in the PCI. Now, another important feature is the identification numbers of devices that are using the PCI bus. Okay. So consider that you are going to connect a device to this PCI bus. A device identifies its address. So just now we have discussed that when you are connecting a system, that is when you are connecting a hardware to the PCI bus, it will be getting a address automatically, right? So a device identifies its address space by 3 identification numbers. And these identification numbers will be assigned by the PCI bus driver. Okay. What are the identification numbers? First one is the IO port. Then second one is the memory locations. And the third one is configuration registers. Okay. So the configuration registers of total 256 bytes with 4 byte unique ID. Okay. So just know that when you are connecting a device to the PCI bus, it will get a address based on the 3 identification numbers, and the identification numbers will be depending on the IO port, the memory, and the configuration registers. Okay, at least try to understand this much. Now, each PCI device has address space allocation of 256 byte to access the, that is, the address space will be having a size of 256 byte. That is a meaning. Okay. Next, PCI device identification. Now, just now we have discussed that when you are connecting a device to the PCI bus, there is actually an identification happening, right? There are two-way identification required. First, the device, that is the LAN interface. Now, let us talk about this LAN interface. This LAN interface should identify the PCI bridge, sorry, the PCI bus, and also the bus should identify the LAN, right? So, the two-way identification should happen. Now, how this will happen, let us see. So, there is a 16-bit register in the PCI device. PCI device identifies this number to let that device auto detect it. So there is a 16-bit register which is in the PCI bus. That is in the PCI device means PCI bus. Okay, and this 16-bit register will help the device, whichever device is getting connected. For example, a LAN which is getting connected to the PCI bus, to identify the bus. Okay, that is, there is a 16-bit register in the PCI bus which will help the device to identify the bus. Okay, that is one thing. Another thing is that there is another 16-bit register which identifies the device ID number. That is, whichever device is connected, it is getting connected to the bus. For example, the LAN. In order to identify the device's ID number, there is another 16-bit register. So these two numbers allow the device to carry out auto detection by the host computer. Okay, I hope this much is clear. So there is there are two registers, both are 16-bit, 16-bit register. Okay, so these 16-bit registers will help in the identification. Two-way identification is possible with the help of this 16-bit registers. Okay, so let us see another things, that is a PCI bridge. Next, let us discuss about the PCI bridge. Okay, so we have seen in this diagram here. See here, there is a PCI bridge, right? Now, what is this PCI bridge? Let us see in detail. Next, we are going to discuss about the PCI bridge. So, in this diagram, we have actually seen about the PCI bridge. So, the PCI bridge help to connect between this PCI bus and the various buses like memory bus, address bus, data bus, control bus. All these buses, in order to communicate with these buses with the PCI bus, the bridge can be used. Okay, so that is the use of a PCI bridge. So it communicates with the memory through the memory bus, and also it communicates with the control and data buses. So a dedicated set of wires is actually used for data transfer. Okay. Now, a separate I/O bus connect the PCI switch with the I/O device. A separate I/O bus is there for connecting with the I/O devices. So the function of a bridge is actually to connect with the other buses and systems. Next, let us discuss about the PCI X bus standard. So it's actually the extended version of PCI bus. Okay. So here the features is it can have up to 133 megabits per second, and it will go up to 1 gigabits per second also, that throughput. Now it is again backward compatible with the existing PCI standard also. It is used in high bandwidth devices like in fiber channel and the processors that are part of cluster and gigabit Ethernet. That is for Ethernet communication on all. We use the PCI bus, that is PCI X bus. Maximum 264 megabits per second throughput, and it can have 8, 32 or 62-bit data transfers. Okay, so for the PCI it is either 32 or 64, but here it can have 8, 32 or 64 bit. Then hot swappable, that is easily connecting and attaching and detaching of the devices or the hardwares with the PCI X bus. Also it supports Ethernet, InfiniBand and Star Fabric support. So these are the features of PCI X bus. Okay, so in this video we have actually discussed about the PCI bus, that is actually the PCI normal and PCI X, that is extended version also. Okay, so these two are the parallel bus standards. So for parallel communication, the main advantage is that it will help in maximizing the speed of communication or the throughput, but the distance of communication will be lesser actually. It will be less than 25 centimeter and all. Okay. So in this video, we have discussed about the PCI bus and the PCI X bus. I'm really hoping that you found the video useful. If yes, please do give it a thumbs up. Also share it with your friends. And if you want more videos, please do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and keep on watching.